Hey guys, Carla here, CEO and founder of Ignite again. We're going to go into paragraph 2 of Othello in this video. So when we're looking at paragraph 2, you're going to move then a little bit further into the play. So we just established Othello's character and the racial prejudices that sort of, shape our view of him, or the view that they had of him as well, in particular, as well as the fact that he's also considered to be, he's quite a respected military figure. So in paragraph 2, this is where we want to go into his, how he is deceived. Okay, so this is where we're looking at that key theme of illusion versus reality, deception. So when we consider Iago's deception, we're looking at the fact that, his manipulation instigates Othello's downfall. So what you want to do is discuss Othello's fatal flaw. He is blind to Iago's prejudices and deceit and unable to distinguish illusion from reality. And this takes up such a big chunk of the play, really. Like 3/4 of it is, Iago is firstly telling us, through dramatic irony. So that's dramatic irony is when the audience know more than the other characters, and especially happens when characters have soliloquies where they just talk directly to the audience, which I'm just going to mention for a second is a really important thing for you to talk about in your essay, because it's such a key part of Shakespeare's dramatic structure. And the reason it's so important is because as an audience, we get this multi-dimensional view of everything that's going on. We know who the villain is. We know who's getting manipulated. We know that this is all going to turn out horrifically. And you can just see Othello just being deceived, and you're like, no, don't believe him, and you're kind of on the outside looking in, and it's kind of awful in some ways because you see that. But what's so interesting about it is, and engaging, is that we as human beings have a limited view. So if someone shows themselves to be, a certain way, or, we see something like, I don't know, a really good example is fake news. So, maybe on social media, there'll be like news that we presented a certain way, and then it's got all these features, and we're like, oh, wow, that has so much credibility, but actually maybe it's completely manipulated and has no credibility. So, as human beings, we have a very limited view. We can only interpret what we see, and again, that's often limited. So, but when we're watching Othello, we see the whole thing play out, and we can relate to the fact that Othello has that blindness, because that's something that is a key human attribute. So, man, I've just touched on so many themes there, which, like I said, most students try to structure these essays theme by theme and don't connect them all together. And then what happens if you get given a key theme to talk about, you sort of then go, oh, I didn't really talk about that, so my answer doesn't work. But in the structure I'm suggesting, you are encapsulating the entire structure of the play, and therefore covering all of the themes in one way or another in a cohesive form, in a cohesive structure. So in this part of the structure, we've got, the fact that we see Othello get deceived. We see that he's got this limited, perspective and an inability to distinguish illusion from reality. So Iago's kind of racial prejudices are very clear. I hate them more. So even though, he's jealous of the fact that, Cassio's been promoted, and, there's all of that jealousy and stuff there, that's true. But, it is very racially pointed in some places. So one example that I said, hate them more. And then he also says, he's done my office. So he does admit that he actually doesn't even know if he's, done my office, is slept with my wife. He doesn't even know if that's true, but he's like, oh, I'm just going to pretend it's true so that I can carry out my plan, and, it's justified, basically. Because he just hates him. So he just wants an excuse to do it. So you can see that there's like these like racial and sexual illusions, which again, illustrates those paradigms we talked about earlier, the racism, the prejudice. Then we've got, how through dramatic irony, we know that Iago is the deceiver or the villain. So he says, I am not what I am. There's so many examples of this. I am literally just giving probably the most commonly used one. So go and look for another one. But, you know, I'm not what I am is a really good paradox. It contradicts itself. It's also antithesis because the structure of it is, so the first half kind of matches the second half. So he goes, I am not what I am. So you've got two parts of the sentence. The first, that have a parallel structure, but the second half contradicts the first half. So saying I am not what I am, it's like, what? You know, so that's a contradiction. So that's what antithesis is. And that illustrates his duplicitous nature and the fact that he's, you know, presenting one image externally, particularly to Othello, but, you know, in reality, that's not what's happening. So, and that's what he's telling us. So we see the whole thing. And that's what the soliloquy provides us with. And that is the nature of dramatic irony, where the audience knows more than the other characters. So that we can see the way that these human relationships and flaws and jealousies and all of that play out. You know, and then you've got the fact that, you know, what Othello's actual fatal flaw is. So that blindness is that, you know, he's too trusting. He thinks, you know, so the Moor is of a free and open nature that thinks men honest, that but seem to be so. So if they seem to be honest, then they must be honest. Clearly not the case. But, you know, Othello is manipulated by that, as we all can be. The rest of that quote, and will be tenderly led by the nose as asses are. So, you know, he'll be led by the nose, manipulated, you know, and then you're getting this animalistic motif coming in, asses. Similarly, draws parallels between Othello's trusting nature, that's his Hamartia, that's his fatal flaw. He's too trusting, he believes in appearances, and comparing him to a donkey, which is, you know, degrading, a stupid donkey. So, you know, that again, that degradation very much highlights the racial paradigms or prejudices of that particular context, and sets Othello up for that downfall, because he obviously believes Iago every step of the way. Then the, you know, the white handkerchief is that final straw that has Othello just believe Iago and think that Desdemona is sleeping with Cassio. So he's got to do something about that for, you know, his honor. Okay, in the next one, we're going to go through the final paragraph, and then we're going to go through a couple of essay questions.